Is there a secret formula that I can put into my head and think about all the time in my effort to achieve peace of mind? The great sage Vivekananda has given us this formula, and the formula is having the capacity to attach and detach at will. This is not as simple as it seems to be. We think, oh yeah, I can attach, yeah, I can detach, but can we? Because the problem we find in our lives is, as a matter of fact, most of the problems is that we get either too involved or not involved enough. And so look at the example of having the capacity to attach. Generally, that's not so much in most people's case a capacity as they are automatically attaching themselves to their work, their career, to their kids, their partner, their family. They're completely entrenched in it and consider that a virtue. But it is a virtue as long as we have the capacity to detach. See, when you get attached to something, you get fully involved in it. Without the capacity to stand back, then that same attachment will just drag us away. These people, the situation, wherever we're involved in, will take over our life. If I'm too attached to career or to success, then that career will drag you away. Let's say you're a realtor and you make tons of money, and all day long you're on your phone answering calls, and your partner, your family is like, come on, dude, I mean, are you ever going to be with us? You're always in business, you're always engaged. And that person says, yes, but we have to do it and this and that. You're too involved. You're so attached to your work, so attached to the sense of responsibility that you feel you have, you're unable to detach. And so that form of attachment can become problematic. The same is true, for example, with kids. I mean, if kids start at a certain age, when they get older, they start having, their own lives, and I'm unable to detach from them, and I'm continuously worried whatever they're doing, or I'm a helicopter mom or a helicopter dad, I'm continuously involved and need to know, and I can't distance myself, then such a love now has become an attachment. So there's a difference between love and attachment when we are getting too much involved. And so we need to be able to step back. And here we come to the other part of the formula, the capacity to detach. That is actually a more rare quality. Now, I've lived 21 years as a monk in my early years and spent a lot of time with great saints and sages. And you will find this one characteristic, and that is the characteristic to detach. Now, this detachment is generally based on some sort of life philosophy. The idea is I don't want to get too much involved in the things of the world because they will drag me along and I will kind of lose control, and I want to just be detached and think of God, and so on and so forth. Now, under certain circumstances, that is obviously a very good, path, right? Because if you are detached from the things of the world, let's say, as a monk, as when I lived as a monk, you never have to worry about money, you never have to worry about relationships, you never have to worry about anything. All you do is you're in your monastery or in your monastic organization. We did service, we worked, but it was never really like my own. It was kind of a part of a greater good. And so it's easier to detach if problems arise, like, oh, whatever, it's fine. Doesn't really affect me. And the organization would take care of your life sustenance, and so you would never even think about it. And, detachment was the name of the game. You were just detached about everything, and nothing really ruffles you. You're kind of in a peaceful state of mind. And that was all good and all well. But the problem there, if you take this to an extreme, is that in the name of detachment, you also start losing a sense of humanity. You start losing a sense of caring, of relatability. I'm from Holland. This is a very rich country. And what I noticed about, being Dutch, and a lot of the Dutch people that I've met, the problem there was that they have a hard time sympathizing or understanding the hardships of poor people, because in Holland there are no poor people. I mean, if you're poor in Holland, that is not the same as if you're poor in India or you're even poor in the United States. United States, you see, doesn't have a safety net. And so if you're poor here, which I have been many times in the United States, you're basically on the street. I mean, you don't know where to go. You don't know how to survive. Same in India or so many other countries in the world, like poor means poor. And so, relatability is because you're involving in life. And so when you are too much detached and you are in a situation where you're kind of elevated away from society, like I was when I was a monk, and I would give beautiful lectures on philosophy and, why don't you detach? Why don't you do this? It was easy for me to say because I was never involved in anything. In that way, can you really tell people like, don't bother because, just think of God. But when you have your family, you have your livelihood, when you're almost on the street, that advice becomes more difficult to follow, right? So you must also have a humanity, you must have a relatability. So that's why Vivekananda said, the secret is to do both. I know a lot of monks that are master detachers, but how relatable are they to your life and your situation? Then I know many people that are so loving and engaging in the world, but to what degree have they the detachment and the wisdom that a lot of the monks have? So the middle path is where we need to find our balance, and that's why Vivekananda said the secret here is to attach and detach at will. So do I have the capacity to completely detach from everything and say, you know what, I have my personal philosophy, other things are more important to me than this work, these relationships that just are so troublesome. I'm able to pull away. But do I also have the love and the care and the sympathy to engage, to understand everybody? Because I also have been in these situations. I also live in life. I also know what it feels to have no money or to go through relationships issues. I need to be able to feel, to engage and to love. I also must have the capacity to fully engage in work, give my heart to service, to love and to everything I do. You see, I remember a great saint one day told me, he said, you must have the capacity to fully engage, to give yourself. That is actually also not as easy as it seems. To completely get lost in your work, to completely get lost in love. How many people really can do that? That is as hard as completely detaching. So once you have the capacity to completely love, to completely engage in your work, with the capacity to completely detach, now we are able to find a neutral distance. I'm not detaching because I don't have the capacity to love or because I don't care. It's because at some point in time I find that my philosophy, that capacity to detach, is also equally strong. Now let's go into that philosophy a little bit. If you look at the yogas, the 4 yogas, we have Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion, Karma Yoga, the yoga of work, Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, and Raja Yoga, the yoga of meditation. Then we find that 2 of these yogas represent engaging, 2 of those yogas represent disengaging, detaching. Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, teaches us the lofty philosophy of a transcendental reality. In other words, there is beyond these pairs of opposites, there is a level of absolute consciousness that I am part of. In my true essence, my true nature is a drop in the ocean. I have forgotten that I am part of the ocean and I think I'm an individual. And as an individual, then the whole world comes upon me and I get so basically engulfed in duality that I'm forced into activity perpetually. I've lost the capacity to see myself as one infinite consciousness. So Jnana Yoga reminds us, hey, wait, don't get too much involved in the world. Know in the back of your mind that you are part of an infinite reality, and that in your meditations, in your reflections, you always keep in the back of your mind the capacity to detach and to engulf yourself in that infinite reality in meditation, where I find peace. The other disengaging yoga is Raja Yoga, the yoga of meditation. And so meditation, what you find, spiritual practices, pranayama, hatha yoga, and all the different forms of engaged meditation and engaged spirituality, those will help us to detach from the world as well, having a daily practice to remind ourselves what is important in my life. Because you see, when I get too much engaged, without detaching every once in a while, I get lost, and those very things that I love drag me along and make me come in a situation of perpetual action and reaction all day long. I'm putting out fires because I am so involved, I am not capable of detaching. So we use jnana, knowledge, having a philosophy to put myself beyond the duality, and having Raja Yoga, the practices, whatever that may be for you. It doesn't have to be some Indian version, but it's just an idea to help us define our path, and having our personal meditation, having our personal spiritual practice to disengage every day and basically put my compass true north. We always try at home here to start our day with meditation, to remind ourselves like what is important. Where at the end of the day do I go? Am I just busy the whole day long? Or do I have a philosophy? Does everything serve that greater purpose? That is that detachment from the things of the world. But then we have bhakti, the yoga of devotion. Then we have karma, the yoga of work. So the yoga of devotion means that everything I do with great love. I serve, I love, I engage. Karma yoga means I am involved in work and I learn how to work with my mind kept on the greater picture. That I am able to fully engage in my work and use that work as a yoga, use that work consciously. So in other words, even the engagement is not a blind engagement. Even loving is not getting completely lost in love, but in the back of my mind, there's always that yoga. That means the awareness of what that is all about and how it serves me in my greater spiritual purpose. And that is basically what is called awareness. At the center between attaching, detaching, and attaching is consciousness, awareness. I'm always at the center, never getting lost. I don't get lost in detachment, like I don't care. I don't get lost in engagement, like I am so involved and so detached that every little thing that just drags me along and I'm never at peace. But I have the capacity to do both at will. Wow, then I'm a complete human being. I'm a complete human being that can give myself in absolute love. I can give myself an absolute work, 100%, not holding back anything. But at the end of the day, I can retreat. Have a look at it and say, is that going the right direction? Is that serving my greater spiritual purpose? Am I getting too much involved here? Am I getting lost here? And so I detach. And in my detachment, I think about my greater spiritual purpose. And so this is, according to the sages, the secret of a peaceful and successful life. And I hope on your way to that center, you will learn also slowly to balance detaching and attaching and find tremendous peace and joy right there in the middle. Thank you. Until the next time.